Emanuel Green, the man in the green shoes, enjoys having his hands in different types of pots in the entertainment industry. His latest endeavor will provide resources needed in the community. Emanuel talks more about it tonight and his other upcoming projects. So, Emmanuel, thank you for talking with me today about, we're talking film this month. So, I wanted to get your take on your field and what you've been doing and how it all began. So for you, I mean, is it you being a little kid and just thinking to yourself as you watch films and television, I want to do that? Like, how did it start for you?
Well, for me, initially, when it came to the TV film, and we don't understand how strong media influences our life until you kind of get into it, and then you look back and you go, "Wow." So for me, people who look like me, people who look like us, when I came up, growing up, all I saw was athletes and entertainers. So automatically, I was like, "Well, if I'm going to get out, I got to be an athlete or an entertainer." That's just what it was, simply put. So,
Sadly, yes.
um,
Yes.
so
And that you can tap too. That's part of your
yeah.
entertainment as well.
Yeah. So I started off as an athlete. I was a sprinter. I was in track. Wanted to become an Olympic athlete. Ended up injuring myself, so that kind of ended that whole path. But I was stronghold trying to go into the Olympics. And then once that ended, then I was like, well, okay, so the sports side ended. So what's next? Media and entertainment. Like that was just literally. So got into music initially. I was a music guy, wanted to get signed, so I started rapping, created a demo, got myself signed out of about 17 years old, signed my first distribution deal. So that's initially how I first got into it, was because of everything I saw growing up. Was that ended up interning at Capitol Records, and that got me kind of involved in the Hollywood scene and understanding the industry as a whole on that side. But then the man in the green shoes is what they call me. This is my nickname. That's how it started. But I used to wear green, so my rap name was Mr. Green. I was always wearing green. That was just a marketing tool. So at Internet Capital Records, all I did was I would wear green shoes. I would greet all my the executives, all my coworkers,
Clientele.
everybody. The idea was to make myself known, not only because of the green shoes, but just giving people a reason to something to understand and remember me by, but also
Absolutely.
just going around greeting everybody. So long story short, last day of work, coming to Capitol Records, everybody's dressed in green. So from that point on, I was dubbed the man in the green shoes in Hollywood. So I've been running with that. But ultimately, that's how I got my start in the industry, was through music. And I left for a couple years, and then I found commercials to be like a saving grace for me. So I got back into the industry more so through the commercial side, simply because I had so much bad experiences on the music side on the back end. So went into commercials because it was just simple, easy. And so that's how I initially got started on the TV film side, was through commercials. And through that last 7 years, got my SAG eligibility, all that good stuff. But then started looking at the TV film side as, oh, okay, cool. I can actually maybe, get involved on this side in it, outside of music. So that's kind of what started me in this track, being an actor, and then becoming a showrunner, that kind of concept, looking more so on how to run stuff as opposed to just being in stuff. So I'm kind of, I'm exploring this whole realm, this TV film side. I'm new to it, only been about 5 years myself, but not new to the entertainment industry, been over 15 years. But ultimately, that's kind of how I got started.
You came from Demi, New Mexico, and I mean, obviously, in some of our towns, we were realizing the limitations that we had. So you left, but you came back, and now you're actually, bringing something back for the folks here in New Mexico with this new project you're working on. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, so the project's called the New Mexico Black Creators Program, and the idea was, when I came back, it hasn't been that long. It's only been a couple months since I came back. But I noticed the immediately, just when I was on set doing different things, there wasn't a lot of African Americans, for one, on set, but then also just exploring the different avenues here. There wasn't really any kind of program or anything for African American creators, Black creators, people of color, to kind of hone in on and hone on our craft. So I was like, well, and I was out here talking to different people in the industry and other creators who look like me, and they're all saying the same thing. Yeah, there really isn't a lot for us here. So outside of the being the black guy on set, the black woman on set,
Hmm.
whatever. But so I said, why not? So created this program. And the idea was to create an avenue, obviously, for people of color to tell their stories and tell stories of African Americans, Black pioneers from New Mexico who weren't slaves. Like, we weren't all slaves. There was a whole like all these stories like Blackdom and all this stuff that I started
Hmm.
learning about of Black pioneers that were in New Mexico, and these stories aren't being told. So I wanted to kind of create that avenue for those type of stories, but also for Black creators to be heard and seen in New Mexico. And then on top of that, because everybody can create like workshops and do different things like that. But I really wanted to hone in on the idea of distribution network because as creatives, we want to create, we want to put our work out there, but no one really knows how or understands how to sell their stuff, and I really wanted to hone in on that aspect because, the starving artist, I want to take that starving out of the artist and understand that in order to not be starving, it's cool to create. You can create your shorts, you can create your, whatever you want, but if you can't sell it to anybody, you're not gonna make you're always just gonna be that asking for money,
Yeah.
coming from that position of need. And I rather us come from a position of partnership and collaboration. So that's really the idea behind it, is creating not only a pool of talent and a pool of content, but an avenue for people to sell their content, so that way we can thrive as a community and as a creative community. And whether you're Black, white, purple, brown, being a creative person, that's always the hindrance. Most creative people don't know how to sell their
Hmm.
creativeness to the world. So it's just like, I create it and people will come. No, that's not how it works. There's so many big companies here taking advantage of us. So why don't we take advantage of them? They're here.
That sounds good to me. That's good.
So, but we have to come at them from an aspect of like, look, we have something that can make you money, not just, give us, green light my project and spend millions of dollars on an unknown, an
Yeah.
unknown producer, an unknown actor.
I know part of the process of you creating this was actually getting a survey out and asking
Mhm.
people what it is that they're looking for. Obviously, distribution's a big one. You're absolutely right about that. What were some of the other things that you discovered through the survey?
I don't have all the numbers pulled up. I'm going off the top of my head. I know financial literacy was a big one. Makeup, makeup for people of color was a
Oh,
big deal as
wow.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a big thing as well. There was, and then also music publishing. So people wanted to understand how that worked, product placement, understanding how to put products and stuff into movies. So there's a lot of that business aspect. And then also business owners, we asked the question of like, if you want to learn how to, interact and work with creatives and influencers. And that was another one. So that was a big thing. People wanted to learn how to work with creatives and influencers on projects.
So I know this one is going to keep you busy. But being that you are the man with the green shoes and you're always in other things, is there any projects that you'll be working on that we can know about that may be coming up?
Been working on a project since 2022. So for those who don't know, I'm a former foster kid and adoptee, and so foster care, all that's close to me because I'm I am a former foster kid myself. So we had a project back in 2022 that we were creating. It was around foster care. It was about aged out foster kid metahumans. And we were going to focus on some of the issues of the foster care system, but doing it in a dramatized fashion. So it's called Foster Story. It was created in 2022, but then this year, because of the Black Creators Program, and we had some interest early on from distributors and what have you. So I just told them about this idea, and they're like, "Oh, this is awesome! You should definitely finish this." So what we're doing now is in development, where we're about a couple weeks out of finishing the first initial draft of the full series. So it is an animated drama series based around this. So Foster's Story is in development now, getting ready to get to the second phase. But hopefully by next year, it'll be something you'll be able to see on your streaming platforms. But yeah, the
Wow.
idea, it's a social impact project, and we're telling real foster kid stories, or elements of real foster kid stories through these characters. So it gives foster care and for the foster care community an avenue to tell their stories. But then also, one of the aspects of it is, as revenues generated, we also give it back into the community for and champion organizations that are trying to change and work on those flaws of the foster care system. So it's an avenue to tell stories like we all want to do, but just focusing it on honing in on a certain aspect. And foster care is big. Foster care community is huge. Most people either been in it or they know somebody who knows somebody who's been in the foster care system. Most, are one raised by their biological parents, and so it's a huge issue, and something that isn't really being put out into the media as much. Don't get me wrong. There's movies, there's stuff like that around that, but this is an entire series based on that. The premise is that just like X-Men, that's my influences. X-Men, Ninja Turtles.
So, where can people find out more about the projects you're working on, about you, your history, everything? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so my personal profile or personal website is themaninthe.greenshoes.com, and that's where all my my content sits as far as in commercials and all that. But then I have my own marketing company, greenvisionx.com. That's where a lot of the projects sit. Like Foster Story, you can just go on greenvisionx.com, look at what I'm doing, look at the different projects and companies we're working with. But so the man in the green shoes and greenvisionx.com, that's all you really needed to go to, and you'll see everything we're doing.
Wonderful. Emmanuel, thank you again for talking with me today. I know you got a busy day ahead, but I appreciate the time.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and interview me. It's awesome. Thanks, Teresa.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon.
All right. All right. Bye
Bye.
bye.